Perfect, perfect. I'm going to request Imam Kaisar Shabir. He is the Imam at Fullerton Masjid or Mosque to start with the Quran recitation, and then we'll get the Quran started.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الولدان أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الأهواء أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. And the translations as follows. O believers, stand firm for justice as witnesses for Allah, even if it is against yourselves, your parents, or close relatives, be they rich or poor. Allah is best to ensure their interests. So do not let your desires cause you to deviate from justice. If you distort the testimony or refuse to give it, then know that Allah is certainly all aware of what you do. Barakallah.
Assalamu alaikum. It translates to peace be upon you. My name is Atiya Akbar. On behalf of IAMC and the Indian Muslim community in Southern California, I am proud to welcome you for this observation of the Independence Day of India. As a student growing up in India, we were taught about the dreams and aspirations with which the secular country was drafted, that the constitution of the secular country was drafted. As a child, I enjoyed Independence Day, not merely because it was a holiday, but also just the thought of the idea of freedom instinctively made me happy. I remember dressing up in our brand new crisp uniforms, school uniforms, and participating in a beautiful parade in the biggest parade grounds of our city, Hyderabad, with all our schoolmates. It was a day of pride for us. I carry that same spirit today, although it's been a little faded because of time and circumstances. But seeing this crowd, wonderful crowd here in front of me, all my Indian friends, it makes me feel very happy and grateful. And when I see interfaith leaders in our gathering, it's like the cherry on top. And of course, the presence of our civic leaders, our Mayor, Farah Khan, and a couple of them who are either running late or Supervisor Katrina Foley apparently fell sick, so unfortunately she couldn't make it here. But it reminds us that we have some friends in powerful places. Please give a hand to Farah Khan for being here. We will start with a flag ceremony and a national anthem for both India and US. Then we will hear from some of our leaders who helped organize this gathering. We will break the monotony of speeches with a short, informative video, and then end it with some delicious snacks waiting for you out there. While enjoying the snacks outside in the hallway, we can get to know each other better and engage with our civic leaders, inshallah. We hope to conclude by 1:45 so you guys can get back to your families for this Saturday. Just a few housekeeping rules and some announcements. The bathrooms, you will step out of this auditorium all the way down to your right, and they're both on either side. There are volunteer forms for IAMC on the desk, the registration table that you saw as you were coming in. Please feel free to fill those out if you would like to volunteer for IAMC for this very urgent and worthy cause. And please stay in your seats throughout the program. There will be an announcement when it will be time for us to get out to the hall and enjoy the snacks. Thank you again for coming here. I hope we will be able to come together more often like this. Thank you.
We're going to get the programs or the ceremony part of the program started. I'm going to invite the civic leaders and our interfaith leaders to come here and stand with me while we do the national anthems. So Senator Dave Min, Mayor Farrakhan, Vice Mayor Tammy Kim, and Lane, George, Felicity, did I leave out anybody from the interfaith? Perfect. So we're and if you guys would like to rise, because we're going to be having the national and on the side. Please remain standing. We'll now play the national anthem of our own country, the United States. Thank you. So please have a seat. We'll continue with the program here. I had a slightly different arrangement for this than what we are going to do now. I was going to have a short video, but it turns out that Mayor Farrakhan has to leave to attend a funeral. So it's not something that I can, blame her for leaving early. So I'm going to invite Mayor Farrakhan to say a few words, and then we will continue with the original schedule. Mayor Farrakhan.
Thank you so much, Akbar, and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. It's such an honor to be here with all of you. It's important as we celebrate Independence Days from throughout the regions, especially today we're celebrating India's independence, but we want to make sure that at the root of that independence is the democracy. It's the civil liberties that should be provided to each and every individual, regardless of where they come from, what religion they practice, or who they are. And I think that's the core of any democracy. And when that core is being shaken, it's upon all of us to speak up and say something. Because if we don't, as you've seen, history does repeat itself. And we've seen it over and over again. And this is the right time to speak up. And I'm so glad that you guys are having this conversation. And I'm, again, honored to be here with all of you and stand with you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Khan. So now I'm going to speak a little bit about the occasion. See, you can tell a novice he doesn't know how to handle a microphone. So, Assalamu alaikum. First and foremost, thank you from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you for choosing to be here. I want to especially thank the mayor of Irvine, who just walked out. Not because of me, I hope. The vice mayor of Irvine, Tammy Kim, and also the state senator, Dave Ming. Thank you for being here. So as Muslims of Indian origin living in Southern California, we decided to observe the Independence Day of India with you, as you will soon realize that this is more meaningful than a simple observation of India's Independence Day. This meaning is derived not just from the fact that India is the most populous country in the world today, recently surpassing China, but also because US and India seems to be forging a strong relationship under the umbrella of Quad, along with Australia and Japan. We are excited about this growing friendship, and we all have a responsibility to ensure that this relationship is not merely a marriage of convenience to stand against someone, but that it stands for something on firm foundations of freedom, equality, and justice. These are the values that we loved about America so much that we left our home and arrived here, and we are thriving here. We want close relationships between the two countries, and we are committed to work towards it, as long as it does not result in dilution in any of these important values. We have a few things in common between the two nations right from the very beginning. As much as we both loved the British, we loved independence even more. So we decided to send them back home on their ships and manage our own affairs. When India was split into two nations, one was based on religion and the other promised to be a secular democracy. Muslims who chose to stay in India had a choice to migrate to a Muslim country, but they chose to stay in a secular country. That speaks volumes about the trust those Muslims had in democracy, in secularism, and in those people who made promises based on those values. Now, instead of being rewarded for their choice to stay and work for a strong India, these are the very people who are targeted as foreigners and persecuted today. The people who are being lynched, raped, and killed are the people whose ancestors fought for the independence of India and gave their lives. And with an incredible twist of fate, the oppressors belong to the party that not only opposed India's freedom, but also did not recognize the flag of India nor the Constitution of India after its independence. Many of you don't know this, because they were busy doing other things, like assassinating Mahatma Gandhi, because they deemed him to be too secular for their liking. Even today, there are many people from the majority Hindu community who stand against injustice, both in India and here. And by here, I'm not just talking about US, but right here today amongst us. People like Dr. Sunidhi Sanghavi. Please stand up, Sunidhi. She is a scientist at Jet Propulsion's laboratory. So she may be smarter than most of us, or all of us. But as often happens, the nastiest and the loudest voices influence the ill-informed masses. The origin and inspiration of these Hindu extremists or Hindutva people is Schutzstaffel. The what, you say? You must be thinking I suddenly crossed over not only to the wrong country, but the wrong continent. Sadly, it's not a mistake. Yes, I said Schutzstaffel, the notorious Nazi German group we know as SS, responsible for murdering millions of innocent people before World War. They were the inspiration of these Hindu supremacists who formed a party with a rhyming name, the RSS. This RSS was banned by British India for their extreme ideology, and then by Indian government after Independence Day when they assassinated Gandhi. Now, it's difficult to gain any power in a democracy with that kind of record and ideology. So they morphed into a more acceptable political party called BJP, whose leader now rules as the Prime Minister. Narendra Modi himself earned his stripes by allowing or enabling mass murder of Muslims in 2002 in Gujarat, after which he was banned from entering the United States. However, when he got elected as PM in 2014, this ban was quietly lifted. The emboldened RSS and its student wing, VHP, unleashed terror against its minorities in India. Their vision is to have a homogeneous India consisting of Hindus exclusively. Now, I'm not going to list all the atrocities that are being committed against minorities, as it's too painful and too long. It's enough to have several respectable human rights organizations like Genocide Watch to declare that genocide is imminent in India. Recently, Christian minority in the state of Manipur were systematically killed and their women paraded naked and gang raped. Churches are burned and priests killed almost on a weekly basis. Oftentimes, police are either spectators or enablers. Needless to say that the hate and violence against Muslims is much worse. Muslims are lynched in broad daylight without any consequence to the perpetrators. Convicted rapists and murderers get released by the intervention of government. I do not want to make the mistake of labeling all Hindus as violent lynch mobs and rapists, because as a Muslim, I know how it feels to be broad-brushed and labeled as terrorists. There are good and ethical Hindus who abhor what's happening, and many of them are working with us and speaking out. However, those in power need to be held responsible because they are often enablers or complicit because of their silence. They know divisiveness gets them elected. Now, some of you must be wondering, what do these issues in a distant land have to do with us? Allow me to show that ideology plays out, how it plays out in our own state, our own legislation and justice system. Hindu society largely believe in a strict hierarchical caste system. The top of the pyramid are Hindu priests called Brahmins. Then there are the warrior class, and then there are the merchant class, and then the skilled laborers. The bottom of that pyramid are the laborers. The lowest class members are called untouchables, because that's how they're treated. If an untouchable touches the vessel used by the upper caste, they can be punished severely, and the vessel will have to either be discarded or washed with holy water. Many of the immigrants bring that mindset to USA. There are several lawsuits of this explicit discrimination in Silicon Valley, where the upper caste Hindu managers abused and discriminated against the lower caste employees. There are famous cases from well-known companies like Cisco, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. Now that prompted our legislators to introduce a bill, SB 403, to make caste discrimination illegal in California. Now you would think this would be a slam dunk. Then some Hindutva extreme forces here rallied to fight against the bill and made its passage very difficult. They claimed that this bill is discriminatory against South Asians. Essentially what they're saying is they want to retain the right to practice discrimination unimpeded here in California, as they have done for 3,000 years in India. The senator who authored this bill got so many death threats that she's afraid to travel anymore. Our own Sana Khutbuddin, where is Sana? There she is. She lives in Sacramento these days, trying to drive this bill and make sure that it gets passed. She informed me yesterday that opponents have now hired a big lobbying firm to come to the cities and try to dilute the SB 403, which is likely to pass at the state level. This is clear evidence that if you do not recognize and speak out against injustice happening elsewhere in the world, it could embolden the abusers to bring hate and injustice right to our backyard. So what can we do? The first step of fighting injustice is to become aware of it. How often does media cover these stories? They're busy making money pitching the right versus the left and vice versa. Hence, rising awareness is the first step. Then we can be vigilant not only in the domestic matters that affect us directly, but also become informed about injustices happening overseas. I'm sure no one here needs to be reminded that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We need to speak out against injustice and then influence our State Department, our Congress, our Senate, to hold our strategic partners to a higher ethical standards than those of China or Russia. A delegation from US led by Ro Khanna was recently visiting India. The new ambassador to India is from Southern California, Mr. Eric Garcetti. Not every one of us get the opportunity to meet these individuals, but those who do need to remind them that these injustices cannot be swept under the rug. Only then we will have a durable and lasting partnership like we do with other nations that truly embrace our common values. Indeed, it will be a win-win for the two nations and everyone who lives in it. And that is the dream I want to share on behalf of all Muslim Indians we have here. Thank you. Now I'm going to play a short video which are basically excerpts from the BBC documentary on Modi and how he came to power. And then after that, we'll have some of these wonderful leaders gathered here speak for a couple of minutes each. So can we play the video, Will? Now Modi and Indian government tried their best to ban this video. So we're just playing some excerpts of this.
My name is Imran Dawood. I live in Yorkshire. My grandparents are from India, so is my father. It was very exciting hearing the stories from family members of what India was about. So it was a great opportunity to do a trip at the age of 18. With me was my two uncles, Sakil and Saeed Dawood, and my next door neighbour, Muhammad Aswat. We were on our way back from the Taj Mahal. It was a long journey. When we actually entered the state, I remember the driver saying literally, "We're home now, boys, we're home." And then we get to a roadblock. There's cars being stopped by people chanting Hindu chants. They were like vetting them. It was very common for people to decorate their cars' windscreens with Arabic literature. So straight away they'd say the owner is a Muslim. The car in front gets through and then it's our turn. The mob surrounded us, waving their weapons. Suddenly we have an attack. We're just literally getting out of the car and running for our lives. The first person that the mob attacked and tortured was the driver. Then I see Muhammad Aswat getting blows to his head. One of the people in the mob and having a knife in his hand, saying to us, "Pull your pants down. We want to see if you've been circumcised." And literally feeling am I going to live? I got stabbed, and then the police vehicle pulls up, and then as I get in, I remember Muhammad unconscious. And this was before me blacking out. That's the last thing I see. I do not know what happened to my uncles. It's fresh in my mind, like it happened yesterday. But sadly, 20 years on, and nothing's happened. There's evidence out there of what has happened, and clearly these people are walking free. It feels like there's no justice there.
"57 people have died after a train carrying Hindu activists was set alight by a group of Muslims. The train was carrying thousands of Hindus who'd visited the holy site."
The wreckage is horrific, all the worse for being man-made and deliberate. One of the worst acts of religious hatred India's ever seen. In some areas, the grief and anger here have already erupted into violence. That's alarming news in a state where racial hatred is deeply ingrained. Jill McGivering, BBC News, Godhra, Gujarat.
My producer started to get information that something was happening nearby in Ahmedabad. It was clear from our arrival that something was very, very wrong. As we were driving in, we were seeing plumes of thick black smoke ahead of us in the centre of town. There were no emergency services there were no police. My memories then are going into the centre of Ahmedabad. There's a quite well-known square. There's a big area, there's an arch, and it was mostly on fire. I remember a man who was a Hindu with his hands to his face watching his business, it was a travel agent's, burning. There were also other people informing me sometimes that the areas that were being targeted belonged to Muslims.
This is exactly what the authorities hoped would never happen. The streets have become a battleground. The grief and anger at yesterday's murders has boiled over into violence, looting, and religious hatred.
There was this sense of absolute lawlessness. It was a free-for-all. I remember seeing the police here and there, very, very disengaged. I didn't see anybody, from what I remember, trying to stop the setting fire to things and the looting.
On the worst day of the violence, when murder and looting were taking place all across the city, we saw policemen just standing by, watching what was happening, but doing nothing to try to stop it.
One of my colleagues in the team was having quite regular phone calls with a contact of his. It was someone, I understand, who was high up in the police force, and they were giving information to my colleague that they'd been told, let it happen. There will be a reaction to what happened in Godhra, let it happen. And we were hearing that those orders to let all this happen were coming from the top.
कल शाम के बाद काफी मात्रा में हिंसक वारदातों में कटौती आई है। दिन गया है। मुझे लगता है कि स्थिति सामान्य होने में तेजी आएगी।
Did Mr. Modi do enough to stop the violence? I think that's something he has to answer for, depending on how you look at it. He oversaw mass violence or was not able to stop it. Questions remained over Mr. Modi's head for a long time, and they remain over him now.
Did the police under your command do enough to stop the riots?
Not only enough, but excellent work they have done.
Excellent work.
Excellent work they have done. Within 72 hours, we were able to control such a violence.
More than 500 people dead, most of them innocent civilians, and you're calling this excellent work?
I'm not happy what happened, but what we have done, I'm happy.
Everyone we've spoken to have said that the police did absolutely nothing.
This is absolutely false propaganda. This is not the truth.
As the violence subsided, stories began to emerge about what had happened to some of the victims. In this largely Muslim neighborhood, more than 100 people had sought shelter in a house to escape a Hindu mob. Imtiaz Pathan and his family were among them.
मारो काटो बूम बहुत ज़्यादा क्राउड बहुत आवाज़ें थी ने भी थोड़ा उनको पथराव किया 2 नंबर मकान था 3 नंबर 4 नंबर वो लोग जलाने लग गए थे यहाँ पे पूरी सोसाइटी के लोग बचने के लिए यहीं पर आ गए थे फिर सारी जो औरतें थी वहाँ चिल्ला रही थी बहुत आवाज़ था मैं डरा था हमारा गुनाह क्या है क्या गुनाह हम मुस्लिम इसके लिए आज मुसलमान के घर पैदा हुए उसका गुनाह
The house belonged to a Muslim former Congress Party MP, Ishan Jaffrey.
लोग चिल्ला रहे थे कि जाफरी को ढूंढो जाफरी को मारो जाफरी कहाँ है जाफरी कहाँ है यानी कि एक एमपी थे तो वो हिसाब से कि थोड़ा बचत होएगी पुलिस आएगी ये चीज़ यहाँ पर इनका एक टेबल था बड़ा और यहाँ पर भी किताबें लगी हुई थी और यहाँ पर उनका लैंडलाइन नंबर था और एक डायरी थी उनकी यहाँ से उन्होंने फ़ोन कॉल कर रहे थे पूरे नेताओं को कांग्रेस के लीडरों को यहाँ के जितने उनके कांटेक्ट थे भाजपा के लीडरों को पुलिस के बड़े अफसरों को फ़ोन किए कोई मदद आई नहीं थी उन्होंने नरेंद्र मोदी को फ़ोन लगाया तो मिला मिनिस्टर थे तो उन्होंने क्या जवाब दिया तो जाफरी साहब बिल्कुल मायूस हो गए जैसे उनका चेहरा उतर जाता मायूस हो जाता है इंसान कैसा हो जाता है शायद मैंने बोले सर नरेंद्र मोदी को फ़ोन लगाया और अब शब्द गालियाँ बोल रहा है बदतमीजी कर रहा है जाफरी साहब ने बोला कि अब कोई मदद आने वाली नहीं है बस यही लग रहा था कि अब एंड है ख़त्म हो जाऊंगा अभी जाफरी साहब तो करके उनका जो किचन था वहाँ पर गए वहाँ पे जाके दंगाइयों को बोला कि अगर तुमको मुझको मारने से संतोष होता है तो मैं बाहर आ रहा हूँ तुम ये औरतें बच्चे और इनको छोड़ दो तब हमने काफ़ी रोका जाफरी साहब को कि मत जाओ आप पर जाफरी साहब नहीं माने उनकी गर्दन काटी उनको बहुत सारे सब अलग कर दिया था और
A judge later ruled that Mr. Jaffrey had provoked the mob by firing his gun at it. Imtiaz survived by hiding upstairs. The violence only stopped when the police eventually arrived.
69 लोगों को मार दिया था 69 को इनमें से मेरी अम्मी की लाश मिली मेरे बड़े अब्बा की लाश मिली वो खानदान के 10 मेंबर को वो मार दिया गया था यार मैं मानता हूँ पूरा नरेंद्र मोदी ही जिम्मेदार है ये चीज़ का नरेंद्र मोदी अगर चाहते तो दंगा नहीं होता
When a senior police officer arrived at the house that evening, the victims' corpses were still smoldering.
Their allegation that police could have done more in Ahmedabad today.
There's always scope for improvement, I concede. There's always scope for improvement. I'm sure we could have done better, but I think I would take it as my inadequacy if that is to be said.
The killings would trigger a long legal battle that made serious allegations about the police response and Mr. Modi's role in the violence. In 2009, Imtiaz gave evidence in court about the alleged phone call between Mr. Modi and Mr. Jaffrey. Mr. Modi denied receiving the call, and an inquiry said there was no evidence it was made. Imtiaz later stood for election against Mr. Modi's political party. In Britain, the government was alarmed by what had happened in Gujarat.
I was very worried about it. I was taking a great deal of personal interest because India is a really important country with whom we have relations. So we had to handle it very carefully. What we did was to establish an inquiry and have a team go to the Gujarat and find out for themselves what had happened. And they produced a very thorough report.
The report, sent as a diplomatic cable and marked restricted, has never been published before.
Extent of violence much greater than reported. Widespread and systematic rape of Muslim women. Violence politically motivated. Aim was to purge Muslims from Hindu areas. Their systematic campaign of violence has all the hallmarks of ethnic cleansing.
This former senior diplomat was one of the investigators. He's speaking publicly for the first time about what the British inquiry found. He's asked to remain anonymous.
At least 2,000 people were murdered during the violence. The vast majority were Muslim. We described it as a pogrom, a deliberate and politically driven effort targeted at the Muslim community. The violence was widely reported to have been organized by an extremist Hindu nationalist group, the VHP, who have a relationship with the RSS.
The VHP and its allies could not have inflicted so much damage without the climate of impunity created by the state government. Narendra Modi is directly responsible.
The report contained an extraordinary claim.
Reliable contacts have told us Narendra Modi met senior police officers on the 27th of February and ordered them not to intervene in the rioting. Police contacts deny this meeting happened.
There were pretty credible reports he had specifically instructed the police not to intervene. The police contact who we talked to consistently denied that, so we did have conflicting reports on what his direct role had been. But we did feel it was clear there was a culture of impunity that created the environment for the violence to take place. That undoubtedly came from Modi.
While Modi remains in power, reconciliation will be impossible.
It was very shocking. These were very serious claims that Chief Minister Modi had played a preactive part in pulling back the police and in tacitly encouraging the Hindu extremists. That was a particularly egregious example of political involvement, really to prevent the police from doing their job, which was to protect both communities, the Hindu and the Muslims. So the options open to us were fairly limited. We were never going to break diplomatic relations with India. But it is obviously a stain on his reputation. There's no way out of that.
The European Union carried out an investigation at around the same time. It reportedly found that ministers took active part in the violence, and senior police officers were instructed not to intervene in the rioting. For most politicians, allegations like this would be devastating. But in the midst of all the criticism, Narendra Modi did something unexpected. He called an election in Gujarat.
This election is all about one man, Narendra Modi. To his supporters, he preaches an extreme form of Hindu nationalism, offering hope and security against Muslim extremists.
રામ ભક્તોને રેલવેના ડબ્બામાં સળગાવી દીધા હતા. આ આપણા ગામને ખબર હતી, જોરથી તો કોઈ ભાઈ સમાચાર મળ્યા હતા. ત્યાર પછી આપણા ગામમાં આપણે કોઈની દુકાન બાળી હતી ભાઈ? આપણે કોઈનું માથું વાળ્યું હતું? આપણે કોઈ બેન બેટીની ઇજ્જત લીધી હતી? તેમ છતાંય આપણા ગુજરાતમાં દુશ્મનો, ગુજરાતના વિરોધીઓ એમ જ કહે છે કે તો ગામે ગામ આગ લાગી હતી. એટલી હદે આપણા ગુજરાતને બદનામ કરી મૂક્યું. એ બધાને જવાબ આપ્યો છે આ ગુજરાત ગૌરવ યાત્રા. ભારત માતા કી વંદે.
दुनिया क्या नहीं क्या पहुंची गई. अक्टूबर में जो आया नहीं.
Narendra Modi doesn't tend to be very media friendly.
You follow what I say?
A little bit, yes. So for him to agree to do a sit-down interview with us felt like a bit of a scoop. He struck me as a very charismatic, very powerful, quite menacing figure.
So you're now coming up to elections. This seems to me to be a state in turmoil. We're seeing repeated violence. We're seeing people living in fear. What has gone wrong with this breakdown in law and order here?
I think you have to correct your information first. The state is very, very peaceful.
So the Muslims who would say that they are still terrified, they are still frightened to go back to their homes, they still feel that the people who murdered their relatives have not been brought to justice, what would you say to them?
I'm not agree with your analysis. I'm not agree with your information. This absolutely misguided information to you. From where you have picked up this type of garbage, I do not know.
Some people have been accusing your government of not doing enough to stop this, of not protecting Muslims even now.
These are also false propaganda made by our opponents, and you are also a captive of this false propaganda.
Can you explain more? Who is perpetuating this false propaganda? That the information I'm reporting is taken from what I have seen with my own eyes, both at the times of the riots and now.
Those who are our opponents.
And the independent reports that have already been published into what has happened.
They have no right to talk about the internal matter of any government. I'm very, very clear in my mind. If they have done wrong.
Some would say it is a human right, or is a general international interest.
Please don't try to preach us the human rights. We know what the human rights are. You Britishers should not preach us the human rights.
In 2007, a reporter went undercover in Gujarat to investigate what had happened during the violence. Posing as a Hindu extremist, he secretly filmed one of the killers boasting about the role he had played. Babu Bajrangi was accused of leading a mob that killed around 100 people.
किसी को नहीं छोड़ा, पनपने नहीं चाहिए. मैं तो आज भी बोलता हूँ कि कुछ भी हो, लेडीज हो, बच्चे हो, कुछ भी हो, काटने से हो कुछ, मारो, काटो, जलाना, छोड़ो.
कैसा लगता है जब मारते तो कैसा लगता है?
मजा आता है ना साहब. उसको मार के आके घर पे सो गए.
Mr. Bajrangi made an extraordinary claim about Narendra Modi. He said that when he was arrested for murder, several months after the massacre, Mr. Modi helped him get bail by changing the judge.
फिर नरेंद्र ने हमारे को संदेशा भेजा कि ठहर जाओ, मैं अभी सेटिंग करता हूँ, अभी टाइम निकल गया है. फिर उन्होंने जज को भेजा, जज ने फाइल नहीं देखी, कुछ नहीं, बोले जाने ग्रांटेड.
Mr. Bajrangi later claimed he was reading from a script given to him by the reporter, though a judge ruled the veracity of the sting was not in dispute. In 2012, Mr. Bajrangi was jailed for murder. And he wasn't the only one who made damaging claims about Mr. Modi. Haresh Bhatt, a local BJP politician, said he was at a political meeting addressed by Mr. Modi shortly after the train burning.
जब जिस दिन गुजरा हो उस बार समय नरेंद्र भाई को क्या प्रतिक्रिया दें?
उनका फेवरेबल, लेकिन हम ये स्टेटमेंट हम नहीं कर सकते हैं. जो उन्होंने किया है ना, वो शायद किसी मुख्यमंत्री ने नहीं किया होगा.
मैं कहीं इसको कोट नहीं करूंगा, मैं वैसे भी आपको कोट नहीं करूंगा कहीं किसी किताब में.
तो उन्होंने जो 3 दिन का मोहलत दिया था, जो भी करना चाहो कर लो, 3 दिन के बाद मैं बंद कर दूंगा, ये उन्होंने खुलेआम कहा था. और 3 दिन के बाद बोला कि आप बंद कर दो, और सारा बंद हो गया.
Mr. Bhatt later said he told the reporter an imaginary story. Mr. Modi has said allegations against him in the recordings are false and incorrect. But pressure was now building for a new investigation into the violence. By the beginning of 2011, Narendra Modi had run Gujarat for nearly a decade. Despite the controversies, some were now tipping him for an even bigger job: India's next Prime Minister.
Don't try to preach us human rights. We know what human rights are. You Britishers have no right to preach us the human rights. What an example of humility, especially coming from the one who enabled many violations of human rights. That's the arrogance that generally passes as bravado for some people. But anyways, well, I'm going to invite Dr. Sunidhi to come and speak a little bit about what her perspective is as a Hindu.
So I have a written speech. I'm not very good at speaking spontaneously, so I'll just read out my speech. I'm sorry. I'll be narrating a chapter of my life here. So, the 9/11 attacks happened 2 years after I had left India to study at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. I was with my Caucasian friends in our student dorm, and we all watched in equal horror and disbelief as our shared TV set showed images of the iconic Twin Towers collapsing like a stack of cards in New York City. Shaken, we hugged and comforted each other. The aftermath, however, was going to be markedly different for me than for them. In the post-9/11 world, my brown-skinned continent was met by strangers with barely hidden suspicion and scathing contempt. A hairdresser I went to poured cold water all over me in the biting cold of November after learning that I was a physics student. He asked me if that meant that I could fly and manipulate airplanes. In another instance, the cashier at a convenience store, uniformly polite to other white German customers, stared at me coldly when I was next in line and pointedly asked me if I was a Muslim. I wasn't. I was a non-practicing Hindu. But what if I had been Muslim? Would it have made me less me? I found an approximate answer to that question 2 years later in 2003 when a young Egyptian scientist joined our research group. His first name was Osama. It was mind-boggling to see how regularly he was reproached for keeping that name. Just how should his parents have foreseen the wild actions of his deranged namesake while naming their firstborn child 3 decades ago? Osama, who remains a dear friend to this day, was friendly, jovial, and loved his work. But everywhere he went, he had to make amends for the monstrous actions of a few delinquents that no sane Muslim could identify with. It was a nightmare, It was as if Islamophobia had enveloped the Western world and paralyzed its sense of justice and decency. The beneficiaries of this paralysis, which continues to this day, were the delinquents of other colors who used this global Islamophobia to further their own self-serving schemes. The daily nightmare of being a Muslim turned deadly for thousands of Muslims in Gujarat in February 2002. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then Chief Minister of Gujarat, orchestrated the worst post-partition communal violence in India by fomenting hate amongst Hindus against Muslims, fanning communal fear and panic by concocting outrageous provocations, spreading rumors, and ultimately co-opting the police to oversee the systematic rape and massacre of thousands of innocent Muslims. The resulting death toll was of a similar order as the 9/11 attacks. Only the victims were now the largely friendless Muslims, and the violence happened in an unglamorous part of the world without 24/7 television coverage. It should be noted that India is home to the second largest population of Muslims in the world, accounting for 200 million people. And yet, the percentage of Islamic terrorists from India is too minuscule to ever have made any headlines. Indian Muslims share the spirit of secularism enshrined in the Constitution of India. They have chosen to be a part of the syncretic social fabric of India, the land their ancestors fought to free from British colonialism as much as anyone else. They are being betrayed in the ugliest manner possible by bloodthirsty mobs who roam the streets of India today, baying for Hindu supremacy. The average Hindu in India is uneducated, impoverished, and is putty in the hands of Modi's media enablers, churning out hateful party propaganda on all available channels while severely censoring opposing viewpoints. Our democratic institutions have become hopelessly compromised, and we beseech the international defenders of democracy and human rights to stand with us in solidarity. Please remember, as daunting as it may be to resist authoritarian rulers like Modi, the spirit of democracy is still alive in India. Its local defenders are tired, but they haven't given up. It is much easier to nurse a struggling democracy back to good health by offering it timely support than to revive a dead one. Home to a rising sixth of the world's population, the demise of democracy in India will have global consequences of seismic proportions. We cannot see this anymore as a Muslim problem alone, but one that puts at stake our common human evolution on this beautiful planet we call home. Thank you.
So there's a chapter in Quran, verse 135, it says, and I think that's the one that Imam recited, "O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it is against yourself or your parents or your kin, whether it be rich or poor." Now, Suniti exemplifies that. It takes a lot of courage to do what she does. I'm grateful to our Senator Dave Min. I'd like for him to say a few words, and I'm really appreciative of the fact that you stayed this long, so thank you very much. Please.
Thank you all. My name is Dave Min, and I have the privilege of representing this area in the California State Senate. The 37th Senate District has over 1.1 million residents and includes my home city of Irvine, surrounding cities like Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, Laguna Beach, Newport Beach, Orange, Lake Forest, Anaheim Hills, Villa Park, and some others. And it's a beautiful area, of course, and the diversity of this area is one of the beautiful strengths of not only this region, but I believe our country. Like many of you, my parents immigrated to this country. They came in 1971 from Korea. And they grew up during the Korean War and its aftermath, a conflict that was devastating for the Korean people. But they grew up believing this idea that America offered something more. The American dream, American exceptionalism, these things were always ingrained in me, in part because I wouldn't be here if 36,000 American troops had not died fighting for these concepts of freedom and democracy far from home about 75 years ago. Today I'm a state senator, my brother's a doctor. We owe everything we have to this country. And this is a very troubling, what is happening in India now is so troubling. It is troubling to all of us who care about freedom, about peace, about basic human rights. And it's troubling because we see some of these same things happening here in America. We see them happening in Orange County. We see the rise of hate, the rise of those who want to attack the values that we stand for, that we believe in. Inclusion, diversity, secularism, coexistence among different types of people. That's the core belief. That's what brought so many of us here, and that's what we're fighting for. So I want to just say to you, I will always stand up against those who want to hate hatred. And it's an honor to represent you and the diversity you bring, the cultural contributions that you bring. I was proud to be a supporter of SB 403. And as Akbar mentioned, SB 403 was it was the caste discrimination bill. And as Akbar mentioned, this was seen as controversial because we were approached by so many people on this bill. It was the most controversial bill we heard all year. And the other side was saying, this doesn't happen, there is no caste discrimination. The existing law already covers it, and also this will lead to discrimination against Indian people, against Hindus. And so we looked deeply at these issues, and I made some remarks in the Judiciary Committee where it was first heard. And I became convinced that it does happen in the United States. We have data, but also I heard from many people, some of the people in this community, that this does happen. I've seen evidence of that with my own eyes. I became convinced after talking to lawyers and some of my old colleagues at UC Irvine School of Law that existing law did not cover this caste discrimination, or at least there's a question around that. And I talked with the author at length about making sure that this didn't lead to reverse discrimination, but I felt comfortable voting for that bill. We ended up voting it overwhelmingly out of committee. It passed overwhelmingly on the floor, but it is still controversial. We expect to see thousands of people come visit the Capitol in the coming weeks as this bill makes its way out of the Assembly. But again, know that I want to represent you. I'm proud to represent you, proud of the diversity that we offer. So thank you for inviting me here today. Thank you for all that you have.
The senator is truly a friend indeed, so another big hand for him. Thank you very much. We've reached out to him on several occasions and he has never disappointed us, so thank you. I'm going to request the Vice Mayor, Tammy Kim, to come and stay with us.
Thank you so much for having me here. To be honest, wasn't prepared to speak. I wasn't asked to come to speak, but I wanted to show up anyway to support. I know a lot of politicians, they come when they know that they have to speak, but knowing that I didn't have to speak, I still showed up anyway. But this was extremely important for me to be here because I wanted to show my unwavering support for your community. As an immigrant myself, who came from Korea, interestingly enough, I just celebrated Korean Independence Day, which is also August 15th. August 15, 1945, against colonialism of Japan, which ended, and in India 2 years later. And so I appreciate and understand the sacrifices that so many of our shared ancestors made to make our respective motherlands free. And I understand it is really a testament to the unwavering sacrifice. Now fast forward to today, 2023, and we want to continue to make sure that the sacrifices of those who fought for freedom, the freedom of our respective motherlands, still holds true today. And thank you for all the work and the advocacy that you do each and every day to ensure that their sacrifices to free India is not done in vain. So thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here.
I know that was a surprise on you, but it's not like you needed any preparation for this. This is natural to you. I'm going to request someone to whom it's also going to be a surprise that he's going to be invited to come and speak. That's Brother Hossam Aylush. He just came back from travel, and in spite of his busy schedule, and by the way, those who don't know him, which I don't know where you guys have been, he is the Executive Director of CARE LA.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I wasn't planning to, I didn't know I would be speaking. I came here because India is important to us, and I apologize, I'm too casual. Came from a walking tour. We're working with the city of Anaheim as we try to improve Little Arabia. So we did a tour of the city and rushed to come here because I want to celebrate India's independence like all of you. But it's sad that after all these decades now we almost have to continue to fight for that independence, to have a free India, free from extremism, free from hate, free from bigotry. And it is not just a Muslim issue, obviously. It is a human issue. Watching what is happening, a genocide impacts all of us. Anyone watching the news coming out of India, you see the impact is not only Muslims. Yes, the Muslims are getting the brunt of it, but Christians, Sikh, secular Hindus, peaceful Hindus are getting targeted. So it's a human issue, and it's an issue that impacts the entire region. It's going to destabilize the entire region in ways that will impact us, even here. It will spill over. So we have to watch and not be spectators, but be able to change what's happening. And we have probably more ability than any other place in the world to make a difference. Because unfortunately, our government has played a hypocritical role. And this is the Biden administration, the Trump administration, and every administration before that. Because we play politics because we feel India is a good counterbalance to the craziness coming out of China and Russia. But in my opinion, the craziness coming out of India is not less. And it's to work with one bigoted leader to counter another bigoted and dangerous leader has never been wise. Policies and practices of appeasement, we know, have never worked in the past. So we have an important role to play. As Muslims, we can't thank India and the people of India enough, especially Indian Muslim leaders. We owe so much of our scholarship, religious scholarship, art to India. So much of our building of American Muslims institution is actually, I would say, easily a third, maybe a half of every institution we have. Credit goes to Muslims who came from India. So we as Muslims have benefited so much. As human beings, we've benefited from India. I mean, the model that India represented, a democracy, a secular democracy where people can be of various backgrounds and live together. And it was a successful one, with its flaws at the beginning, but it was certainly a successful one that other nations can look up to. To see that being dismantled, being undermined today is something that breaks our heart. And I've shared some personal impact for me because I've shared it with few of you in the past. Actually, My uncle, my great uncle to be specific, was Syria's Consul General to India for over 30 years. He lived there. That was his second home. He was in Bombay at that time, now it's Mumbai again, right? He lived there more than he lived in Syria, because he not only took the role and he loved it and he stayed there, and the stories he shared with us every time he would visit, we felt affinity to India. My dad and my mom actually lived for a short time in India when my dad had an import-export business there. And I would remember them when they would come in all the time with boxes of spices, Indian spices. We're the only Lebanese Syrian family that ate food with spices. So you can imagine how my friends felt every time they came to eat. They would come out with the red face and sweaty. It's like, oh my God, oh my God. But that's, part of what we've learned from India. Warm people, hospitable people, caring people, of all backgrounds. Their friends were Muslims, Hindus, and others. And that's something we celebrated. And to see that being shattered today breaks my heart. And I think, obviously, the result of it is not something, a story we read. We watch lynching, killing, and everything we've seen so far is truly the scratch of the surface. It's basically, it's the tip of the iceberg of what could happen if this goes out of hand. And unfortunately, we're that close. All it takes is one incident that could trigger a major genocide. May Allah forbid, may God forbid. We don't want to wait until there's a genocide and say, what can we do to help the millions of victims now? There's a chance, still a chance actually, very possible chance to prevent it. And I think it is important. We at CARE, we're very much committed to working with our Indian American community, and specifically the Indian Muslim community, and of course under the leadership of Indian American Muslim Council, to make sure that we prevent our government from becoming an enabler, which has been the role today. I'm ashamed to say that our own government has played the role of enabling. Praising, working with Modi is the wrong message to send. We have to send the message that we stand for something. We stand for human rights, for human dignity for all people. We're not going to sell out our values to advance short-term political gains. Our team, Basha is here representing our policy team from CARE LA, one of the most senior actually policy managers within the organization, within CARE nationwide, has been working closely. Stand up. Basha Jamil, who is very well versed on this issue. I mean, her background is actually international human rights before joining CARE. So she's very committed to this issue. She's, again, willing to work with our various leaders to make sure that we raise the concerns to every level. We want to make sure that at a city level, at a state level, and more importantly, at a federal level, our elected officials are aware of what is happening, because they play ignorance. They say, we didn't know. We don't know what Modi is doing. He sounds like somebody who's interested in economy and bringing technology into India and all of that. They don't know the dark side of what he has been doing and what he continues to do, because I don't think he has changed. I don't think it's possible for him to change because the way he's entrenched. So we have a role as activists, but as individuals. Each one of us here can contact their member of Congress, hold them accountable. It's a shame, we're talking about AB 403. It's a shame that actually, Sana will tell you, it was almost completely derailed because of the games they played, that this is anti-Hindu. It is not anti-Hindu. Imagine a Muslim or a Christian, saying we're not going to stand against discrimination because some Muslims engage in discrimination. That is not good. No, it's not. It's never acceptable. We came together, and I was so proud to see Muslims, Hindus, see Christians, activists of all backgrounds coming together to send the message that protecting human dignity is an important thing for us at a state level. But we need to take that at a national level, federal level. So I'm calling upon each one of you. I always do that. Make sure you're a member. Make sure you sign up to become a member of IAMC. In the American Muslim Council, I've been watching the work they've been doing, very balanced, very systemic, because the only way we're going to make a difference is to be organized. CARE cannot lead it. Unfortunately, we don't have maybe the resources, the skills, the know-how to lead it, because we're a civil rights organization focused on very domestic issues. But what we can do, become the arm, the extended arm, the voice of partner groups such as IAMC. The way to do that means we have to empower these specialized organizations, the ones that focus on Palestine, India, Pakistan, Syria, Kashmir. Every organization leads the effort, and then groups like CARE and others can bring in the rest of the American Muslim community and the larger community, the public, into advocating for these issues. So please become members, become aware, and of course I'm preaching to the choir, you're here, that means you are aware. But let's make sure we build alliances, work with other groups, make sure we don't do anything that falls into the trap of what the Hindu nationalists and extremists are trying to do, turning this into a Muslim-Hindu issue. It is not. So make sure what we say, who we work with, is very careful. Things that represent the values that we believe in, and things that represent what we would like to see India be again. So, a country that actually welcomes and brings in everybody together. I'm so humbled to be here. I'm an ally, not just a brother of yours, an ally. As I said, India is very important to me personally, to CARE, to the Muslim community, and we commit to continue to strive with you until we very soon, inshallah, God willing, we see India free again, free of hatred, bigotry, extremism. Assalamu alaikum.
This always happens when Brother Hassan speaks. The microphone needs to be brought to the lower level. How many of us are hungry? Yeah. We're going to go out and eat. But before we eat, we're going to have Supervisor Katrina Foley was planning to be here, but she could not because she is not well. She wasn't planning to fall sick, believe me. So she sent the Chief of Staff to give us a certificate. Am I correct? Yeah. Bring that up. Yes. And right after that, we will go out, but please allow the guests, our interfaith guests, to go out and take the food, and then we can always go in. So I'd like for him to come up here, and I want to, this certificate is for IAMC, so I'm going to have Brother Nasrullah come up there and receive that. Go ahead.
And I'll just say a few words following so many powerful speakers. My name is Nick Annis. I'm Chief of Staff to Orange County Supervisor Katrina Foley, who represents the 5th District, which is most of coastal Orange County from Costa Mesa, a large part of southern Irvine down to San Clemente. I saw the American flag here next to the sign for the council, and to me there's nothing more American than the work that you are doing. And and I'm going to echo Vice Mayor Kim and Senator Min, we have seen an alarming rise in hate in Orange County. At the County Board of Supervisors, I see Basha here. We were together, God, more than 10 years ago. And we saw earlier this year when the county voted to create an Office of Immigrant Affairs, we saw that for the first time in anyone's memory, we had to shut the board meeting down because when folks came to exercise their First Amendment rights to support creating the office, there was another group who was on the verge of physically intimidating those speakers. We see a rise when the year before that, when we created our Afghan refugee settlement program, we saw folks vehemently oppose that at our board. And so our Orange County Human Relations Commission, we see report after report after report of an overall rise in hate that is tied to nationalism and the rise of nationalism here in the United States. And so the work that you all do is critically important. And so I want to thank Akbar and all of those here who are making it happen. And just out of a small token of appreciation, present on the behalf of the County of Orange a certificate of recognition to recognize all the amazing work you're doing. We're here to help. Please reach out to our office anytime. And thank you again so much. It's assumed there'll be a camera from you.
Thank you, Ken. It's an honor and to receive a citation from your supervisor's office. The very fact that you are recognizing the work that IMC does for upholding civil rights and social justice in a different part of the land is a testimony to your belief and commitment to upholding civil rights and social justice from your office. So let's work together and we welcome this. Thank you.
For those who don't know, Brother Nasrullah has worked for IMC. He's from San Diego, but for a very long time. I'm going to delay your going to lunch for a little because I forgot to invite Sana, who's come here from Sacramento for this. So I'm going to have her speak for a couple of minutes because believe me, the work that she does is deserving of recognition by everyone within our community. Please, Sana, put with me.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It is a pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. We are in one of the most difficult times of human history. The scope of the genocide that we're seeing unfolding in India is unmatched in human history. Within the last 2 weeks, over 1,200 Muslim homes and businesses were demolished in an area expanding over 30 miles. And it had nothing to do with anything other than the occupants being Muslim. When we keep hearing about what's happening in Haryana, what's happening in Gurgaon, I just want to call to your attention that the Delhi International Airport is in Gurgaon. These demolitions did not happen in some random village somewhere. They're happening in suburban Delhi, in the nation's capital. And that, in fact, is indicative of India's current day reality. Can you imagine this type of genocidal violence happening in DC? The Haryana and Punjab high courts said that this amounted to ethnic cleansing. The Haryana and Punjab high courts in the region said that this amounted to ethnic cleansing. And in fact, when we think about India today, unfortunately, the dream and the vision that was for India was an inclusive vision for all people. An inclusive vision for all people to move in the direction of their dreams. It was beautiful. It is worth preserving and standing up for and fighting for. But today, it is the bulldozer that is the best symbol of India. And it is the bulldozer that has the audacity and the autonomy to do whatever the heck it wants before the law. And I'd like to add that what happened with the Gujarat genocide is something that continues to reverberate in India, in its judicial systems, in every aspect of Indian policy making today. And it was something that happened within my own family that woke me up to the terror of what Hindutva was 20 years ago when I started organizing around this issue. But what I'd also like to add is that Modi and the BJP ruling party are killing more people, minorities, Muslims, Dalits, Christians, with national policies than they had during the Gujarat genocide. At a time when the Indian economy was in good shape, one of the first measures Modi took was instituting a 30% social welfare spending cut. knowing fully well that this would directly impact Indian Muslims who are already the most impoverished and least educated community in India, also the second largest majority. So in the years since, over 300,000 deaths have taken place because of this policy by malnutrition, aka starvation. And this India that we love so much, it was our ulama, our scholars, Islamic scholars, who sacrificed 9,000 Islamic scholars from Uttar Pradesh, sacrificed their lives for India. They were on the front lines for the battle for independence against colonization. 9,000 scholars from Uttar Pradesh. And there is no way that the magnitude of the human rights situation in India can be understated, denied, or obfuscated. There is so much of this eat, pray, love, whitewashing of the reality that is happening there. We're still not getting the truth as it is. And even Indian Muslims, so imagine the world, because the Indian Muslim community, it's also hard for our own community to become aware of these things. And the bludgeoning of the Indian democracy, the civil liberties and human rights of its people is a cluster bomb for the international community. There is not a single city, state, nation in the world that will not be shaken by what is happening in India. In December 2019, both houses of Indian Parliament passed the Citizenship Amendment Act, and I'm going back there because I want everyone to understand why this is a ticking time bomb. 200 million Indian Muslims became stateless overnight. UN High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet went to intercede to see if we could stop this, prevent this from moving forward. It moved on anyway. The largest move in human history to make an entire population stateless overnight. The only thing standing in the way from carrying this out was COVID. However, recently, the Union Minister Amit Shah declared that the process to delegitimize Indian Muslims would commence soon. Last year on Independence Day, a group of Hindu priests in Uttar Pradesh introduced a new constitution based on Hindu scriptures, which declared Indian Christians wouldn't be allowed to vote or serve in the army, but they could live in India. Almost exactly a year later, there's a civil war going on, raging in Manipur, where about 300 churches have been burnt down, over 100 killed, and thousands displaced with their homes destroyed. There is a clear vision that the RSS had for India that was an India without people that are Hindu, or without people that are non-Hindus, and it is being carried out meticulously. As Brother Akbar mentioned, the origins being inspired by Hitler and the Nazi Reich is something that the RSS took to immediately as soon as India was founded. The RSS, the Rashtriya Shivya Sena, has 40 million armed members of their militia throughout India. There are 40 million members of the Sangh Parivar. In fact, the head of the Sangh Parivar, 40 million militias, Mohan Bhagwat, he used to regularly taunt the Indian Army chief and say, you only have 3 to 4 million members. I have 40 million, and they're ready to serve any time of day, and they're well fed, making fun of the Indian Army. Mohan Bhagwat regularly literally taunts the Indian Army general like you have nothing. I could take you over in a second. These armed militias, they institute the social and economic apartheid of India. The India that is for people that have caste privilege, and then the India that is for Muslims, Dalits, Christians, Sikhs, and Adivasis. And when we talk about minorities, we're not talking about small groups of people. Our disenfranchised communities, the ones who experience the apartheid carried out by the Sangh Parivar, are about half the Indian population. Every day in the state of Uttar Pradesh alone, about 30 young Muslim men between the ages of 16 and 35 are killed for no other reason than being born a Muslim man. No other reason. I'm going to wrap it up soon. This is a government led by Yogi Adityanath who called for the dead bodies of Muslim women to be raped at a mass rally. And after it went viral on social media, the desecration of Muslim women's bodies happened throughout the nation. In 2018, I went on a fact-finding mission to find out about the over 700 Indian Muslim girls between the ages of 11 to 17 who were kidnapped, raped, and forced to convert to Hinduism and forced to marry their captors. The gang that led this violence is called the Hindu Yuva Vahini. The president of the Hindu Yuva Vahini is no other than the governor of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath. I was fortunate enough to find 3 girls, 2 13-year-olds and 1 15-year-old. And their parents begged me, Khuda ke liye, do not say a single word to the police, to the UN, to anyone that you met our daughters. Don't tell anyone. Because if they find out that they escaped and they're alive, the police will come back and rape our daughters, and they will have much more misery that they have to deal with. That's the type of insecurity that we're dealing with. Finally, I'm going to end, so sorry, I've taken up too much time. On a recent visit to a museum in Hyderabad, I saw this 3-dimensional golden falcon that was commissioned by a former Nizam of Hyderabad. And it was inscribed with prayers for future generations, to be rightly guided, and for their protection. Nietzsche said, art is a message from the past about priorities for the future. I want us to think about, what are our priorities going to be? What messages are we going to send to future generations? What all of us are here up against is a time bomb that will shake the whole world, as many of us have mentioned. And all of us have this responsibility, and we will be judged now and after we're long gone about where we stood in one of the greatest battles for justice of our times. Thank you.
So please use this afternoon as a call to action, and let us turn to God Almighty. O Lord, we ask you to descend your barakah and blessings on India. O Lord, Ya Rab, we ask that you allow freedom, equality, and justice to descend on the people of India. And O Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, we ask that your peace and your sakoon flourish on all of the people of the great nation of India. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik Yawm al-Din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Once again, thank you for being here. Please join us outside for snacks and appetizers. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.